Aloha, everyone, and welcome to this extended stream of This Is Now. I'm Dylan Ancheta in the H&N Digital Center. In just a few moments, we're going to be playing out a special podcast by one of our digital content producers, Megan Ramones, touching on the very important topic of mental health. But first, let's give you a live look outside. This is our live camera over Honolulu, looking toward the Makiki Punch Bowl area. It is a beautiful day here with no major rainmakers in the forecast anytime soon. So hopefully you are out and about enjoying this afternoon. Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it focuses on the importance of mental well-being, especially in our youth. Now, joining us now to talk more about this is our digital content producer, Megan Ramones. Aloha, Megan. How are you today?
Hi, Dylan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what you've been working on.
New data by the CDC shows that more teens are reporting poor mental health and having increasing suicidal thoughts. Being a teen was never easy, but it seems that there's a rising concern in young people who are in a crisis. So to explore this, I spoke with Dr. Charmaine Jackman. She's a licensed therapist of 25 plus years of experience, and she explains the state of mental health in our youth. And she also provides some tips and resources that parents can refer to in the case that their teen is struggling.
Yeah, what are some of those tips that the doctor shared?
Essentially, she said to start the conversation. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be terrifying. It's going to be uncomfortable. But just the fact of starting that conversation and showing your teen that you're concerned about their well-being is enough to show them that you care. And she just said to connect with them, connect with your child, because more than ever, they need connection.
Most definitely. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to take on this topic, and what does mental health and mental health awareness mean to you personally?
I wanted to explore mental health stigma, like what's stopping people from getting the help that they need, because for sure there are some things that we grow up with thinking that we can't show weakness, we can't be vulnerable. So I wanted to go out and explore what mental health experts had to say.
And now we want to go ahead and play out for you that podcast by our very own Megan Ramones.
Aloha, everybody. My name is Megan Ramones, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And in honor of that, I wanted to discuss a rising issue in our society today: America's youth mental health crisis. Just to give you some background, new data from the CDC reveals more teens are reporting poor mental health and having suicidal thoughts. As a parent, this issue can be hard to navigate, let alone trying to start a conversation with your teen. But experts say it's a crucial time to start. I spoke with Dr. Charmaine Jackman, an award-winning licensed therapist with 25 plus years of experience in child and adolescent mental health. A little background on Dr. Jackman: she's also the founder and CEO of InnoPsych, a mental health tech startup on a mission to increase access to and utilization of mental health resources, especially among people of color. In this segment, Dr. Jackman explains why it's important for parents and caregivers to talk to their teens about emotional well-being. She also provides tips and resources that parents can use to open up more meaningful conversations with their teens. And she also highlights some signs and symptoms that parents can look out for in their teens in case they're struggling. So without further ado, take a listen. All right, thanks for joining us today, Doctor.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me on. And I love talking about mental health. So this is great as we kind of honor Mental Health Awareness Month. So, the CDC report, CDC recently released a report that really highlighted kind of the state of youth mental health. And as you mentioned at the top, we've all been impacted by the pandemic. And I would say, honestly, I've worked in schools for over 17 years, in high schools in particular. And definitely we have seen this come in. So from a mental perspective, I'm not surprised. But what we are seeing is that in the wake of the pandemic, we're still seeing these numbers continue to rise and increase. So, of note, we're seeing young people, middle and high school students report really high levels of symptoms associated with depression and anxiety, such as sadness, hope, and hopelessness. We've also seen increases in youth of color. They're also expressing more impacts from mental health conditions, and always youth who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender have always had mental health concerns that typically are much above the rate of other adolescents. And the other alarming stat that we're seeing, and we're really taking note of, is that the higher rates of suicide ideation and completed suicides.
Those are a lot of numbers and stats that we need to work with, and it's obviously an ongoing problem. And I just want to know, why would you say it's important, or would you say it's important that parents or caregivers talk to young people about mental health?
Yeah, I think it's really important that we all find a language to try to understand what our young people are dealing with and are facing. I say this, but I know that sometimes as adults, we didn't have that model. We didn't learn how to talk about our feelings, or people didn't ask us about our own feelings. So I think it's really a learning opportunity for the whole family. And so what we've seen, ways that we can make these conversations less awkward and easier, the Sound It Out Together has a campaign, which they've launched, a conversation starters. And though this is a great tool that's available on the web or through mobile applications, and it has a number of questions and prompts that you can engage with the young person in your life about different feelings and emotions that they have around friendships and around bullying and racism, kind of heavy topics that you might not have the language to navigate. There's also another campaign with Amazon and the Ad Council called "When You Can't Say It, Play It." And the whole idea is using music as a way to communicate. And, if I were to ask you, Megan, like, what is a song that you listen to, coming of age song? I bet you could tell me to name that song. You could sing all the lyrics to that song, right? So music just has a way of communicating, our emotions, and it transcends generations and language in some ways. And so I think using music is a really powerful tool to get parents and their children to talk, but also developing that emotional literacy, that giving young people strategies to name and identify and express the emotions that they're having inside.
Wow, I love that. There's so many resources out there for parents and students and adolescents that they can turn to. And you brought up a really good point. Sometimes it can be really hard to start conversations, especially around mental health. Would you say that mental health stigmas play a part in that?
Absolutely. So, many of us grew up with messages that mental health doesn't exist, or it's something that just for people who are really impaired. And so we don't get to see the spectrum that we have people who may have mild mental health conditions, moderate and severe. And then we also ignore the fact that we all have mental health and that we all go through things from different times, and that there are things that we can do on a daily basis to nurture and feed our mental health and well-being. So like mindfulness strategies, listening to music, connecting with other people, talking about the range of emotions that we may have. So I think that when we think about mental health in this very small way, this box where only people who have severe mental health conditions are the only people who struggle with mental health issues, we miss out a whole range of the population who can get support and need support, and maybe managing or navigating difficult things throughout their life's journey.
I did have another question in regards to therapy. I see you have a t-shirt back there that says "Get You a Therapist."
Yes.
I just kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit. And I guess, what advice do you have for parents who are against therapy? Because I know there's kind of like some pushback on it, saying like, okay, if you go to therapy, then something's really wrong. But how can we, I guess, normalize therapy so that more people have access to it or are open to it?
Yeah, I think we really have to really break down some of the cultural and other barriers around mental health. I started InnoPsych at a time where I was trying to find a therapist and was having a hard time. And through that process, I realized how many negative messages people have about mental health. And I think the whole idea that Many of us have had different types of trauma or experiences, work stresses. We've had, just all the collective trauma we're seeing around, and it has an impact on us. And so the idea is that, we can all benefit from therapy, but we have to really kind of interrogate and kind of break down some of those messages that we learned that therapy is maybe just for certain groups or is very expensive, and really think about how we can make it more accessible to everyone. I think therapy is a beautiful process. If you've never had it, like, think about it. You have someone there to just talk to you about things that are on your mind. They don't have any other agenda, just your own mental health and well-being. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about therapy. People may think like, oh, you're going to try to change me or make me do things I don't want to do, or you're going to force medications on me. And that's absolutely not what therapy is about. It's really about hearing what you want from your life and being a guide and supporting you in that way, helping connect you to resources. So I tell people, like, we're not in the business of changing you, only the change that you want to make. And definitely it's always at your pace. But I say that also that talk therapy is not for everybody. And so there are other forms of healing. So if you know that something isn't right with you, that there's some healing that you need, finding the thing that really sparks your healing, I think, is really important. So whether it might be some body-based work like yoga or mindfulness, there are other ways that you can navigate and get to your own healing that may not involve the traditional talk therapy routes. But I always just say prioritize your mental health, because I think that's important for us all.
I love that. Healing is different for everybody, but it's still a priority. For parents, what are some warning signs or symptoms they should look out for in their kids, just in case?
Absolutely. So that's a question that I get quite a bit. How do I, if my child is exhibiting behaviors, what should I be looking for? And, if we think about mental health concerns that may move in the mild phase, it may actually be hard to kind of tell unless you're asking them questions. And that's why the conversation starter pack is such a great tool. As people get into moderate and severe, it's harder for them to hide what might be happening for them. So some things to look for are, you want to look in changes in their mood, their behavior, and their affect. So are they seeming more sad or more angry, more irritable? Sometimes teenagers actually, we look for the sadness, but sometimes it's more anger. You might also want to look for changes in their behavior. So have they dropped out of activities that they used to be really, really invested in, right? They stopped playing their sports or maybe their arts program. Have they changed friends or hanging with a group that you're not really sure about or maybe don't like? Or they're not hanging with their friends anymore, right? Those are some major signs. Sometimes giving things away, that their prized possessions, expressing thoughts of negativity or hopelessness, like maybe you'll be better off if I'm not around, or, nothing's going to work out. My life is a failure, right? So some of those things are really great, important warning signs to pay attention to. Changes in eating, sleeping, those are also good things to pay attention to, but sometimes they're maybe harder as your kids are older. They may not be having as many meals with you. But the thing is, if you have any worry, don't minimize it. Talk to their teacher, talk to the doctor, really get help. And I'd rather you be worried and do something and get support than underestimate how serious a problem might be.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jackman. Is there anything else you would like to add?
The only thing, again, I just say, again, have the conversation, recognize it's going to take more than one conversation to get rid of the awkwardness you may have about having these conversations with your children. And then the next thing I encourage you to do is, when they share with you, just listen, take it in. Even if they may say things that you disagree with, or it brings up more worries, just allow them the space to share with you. And you'll have an opportunity to come back to them and maybe unpack that a little bit more. But if you overreact, that's going to shut them down. So just listen, take it in, and really, again, just start the conversation. There's no way to avoid that awkwardness, but use the tools to help you feel more confident in having those conversations with your children.
For more information on mental health resources and services, visit HawaiiNewsNow.com. This is Megan Ramones, Hawaii News Now.